Right, how's it going? It's me, Shotty4HF. Hello to all the fellow music makers and producers out there. I hope everybody is doing well. Okay, so in this video, I just wanted to share this tip with you. And as with all of these videos, with any tips that I share, quite often it's not something that I'm saying you should do all of the time or it's necessary to do all of the time. It's just in certain situations, there are certain workarounds and certain things we can do which can help us depending on the situation and depending on what it is we're trying to do. So I'm going to go straight into this. Have you ever found yourself in this situation where you have everything mixed, you have all of your input gains set correctly, going into all your plugins and your compressors and stuff like that, and you kind of have this nice mix balanced, but when I play it back, as you'll see, there's way too much going into the stereo out or your master bus, 2 bus, whatever you want to call it. So let's have a look. And as you can see there is way too much going into our stereo out. So, okay, obviously at this point, what you could generally do, I guess, is select all of the faders. Yeah, so just go up to here, select all of the faders, and just simply turn them all down. But of course, as you sort of start to turn down the fader, the increments get larger, and you kind of lose that kind of definition, if you like, in the fader, the accuracy. So you don't necessarily want to do that. Plus as well, it's not always the best thing to do, just to try and turn everything down. So here's one workaround and something that I do quite often, to be fair. So with this mix as it is, and as I've showed you, too much going into the stereo out, what I tend to do is each section of the mix, and this might be fairly basic to some people listening, but I send this to buses or sub mixes. Okay, so if I go through this track here, for example, all of these sounds here are making up the kick drum, or they're all being used as part of the kick drum pattern. So I've already created the buses here in this project, and can I just say, I've set this project up specifically so that there's too much going into the stereo out. This wasn't actually happening with this track because it was kind of balanced quite well, but I've just kind of pushed everything a little bit extra just to sort of be able to demonstrate this to you. And I've already set up the buses that I'm going to be routing to. So for example, here I'm going to create a submix and call this kick mix. Then all this light blue stuff is the drums, so I'm going to call this drum mix. And then go through here, I've got some kind of synths and some respaces, and I'm just going to, for the purpose of the video, call this mids mix 1. Okay, the red stuff there is bass, so I'll call that bass mix. And I know that this is generally what people do anyway. You should probably send stuff to your submixes, but I'm just going to show you something else at the end that kind of helps you with the gain that's going into the stereo out. So bear with me. So this I will call mids mix 2. There's some instruments and some choirs going to that. Then the grey stuff is some effects, impacts and risers and that kind of thing, so I'm going to call that effects mix. Then down here we've got some more sort of mids and some effects. I'm just going to call this mids mix 3. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to my mixer, and then I'm going to route all of these parts to those submixes. So all the kicks here I'm going to send to kick mix, and then all the drums I will send to the drum mix. Then this next one is called mids mix 1, so I'm going to send all of those parts to mids mix 1. All of these here to the bass mix. Then this to mids mix 2. Obviously it's different depending on the DAW that you're using. I know that routing is very different in Logic, for example, with the org, sends and buses, but the principle's the same. However, you have to go about it in the software that you're using. I know Cubase is slightly different because it uses groups essentially, and you're just kind of sending the tracks to the groups. So yeah, it is slightly different in Cubase, but stay with me to the end and you'll get the idea of what it is that I'm doing. So send all the effects to the effects mix, and then this is mids mix 3, so I'm going to send them to mids mix 3. Okay, so now they're all going to the submixes. Now I guess at this stage what you could do is just select all of those submixes and turn them down. to be able to get some of that headroom back in the stereo out. You could just select them all like that and turn them all down. Okay, that's obviously one way of doing it, but again, you start to lose the definition and the accuracy in the fader the lower you go. So generally I don't like to do that. Here's what I do. So in Cubase, I can select this button up here, which is Quick Link, and I'm going to select all of those submixes, and on each one I'm going to put a very simple gain plugin. Okay, and I'm going to use this one here, and with the Quick Link still enabled, I'm not sure how you do it in other DAWs. A lot of the time it's either holding down the controller, the command key, or something like that. But essentially you want to put a gain plugin on each submix. Then I open one of those instances of this gain plugin, and I'm literally going to key in -10 dB. Okay, so that has given me 10 dB extra on each of those submixes. And if I play this back now, what you'll see going into the stereo out, hopefully, is that we've gained a little bit of headroom. Which we have. That's now hitting around about -6 dB on the stereo out. Okay, and that's been done without touching a single fader in the mix. It's simply sending all of the parts to the submixes, then using a gain plugin before it goes into the stereo out to be able to achieve the headroom that we want. And of course, depending on the track, you might have to open, this instance and play with this. You might want to set this to -5, -15, something like that. And I will just add, it's only a good idea to do this when you're sure that all of your input gains are set correctly and you've done your gain staging, so nothing's clipping going into the individual tracks and nothing's clipping going into the submixes. Okay, so for example, if I mute all of these and play this back, mute all the gain plugins, I can see that nothing's clipping going into any of the submixes. Okay, okay, excuse me, there is something clipping there on the drum mix, so obviously I would need to sort that out. I think I know what it is. It's because I've got this plugin pushing it too hard. Okay, so yeah, I've just got to throw this in at the end. Only do this if you're sure that your input gain's set correctly, nothing's clipping going into the submixes, and then at that point, when you know there's no clipping signals, you can then switch on the gain plugin and key in the desired gain to bring it down by without touching a single fader in the mix and gaining that headroom that you want on your stereo out for whatever processing it is that you might want to do on there. Again, I'm not saying this is something you should do all the time. This is not like, a set in stone practice that every mix has to be this way. It's just sometimes, I found myself in this situation where there's way too much going into the master bus, but everything else is kind of set fine. And, you don't really want to start playing with the mix too much. Essentially, if the track is mixed right, this shouldn't be happening anyway. You should do this through the various stages of mixing anyway and balancing each track so that what you're feeding into your master bus is the right level. But I have used this workaround a few times and it has been really helpful, and it's kind of got me to where I need to be. So that's just why I thought I'd share it. I hope this helps somebody. Let me know in the comments. Do you do this? Have you tried this? Don't you do this for whatever reason? Have you got another workaround? Anything like that, do let me know. And please like and subscribe, because I will be back with more videos very soon. For all the music that I make, search Shotty 4HF. I'll leave all the links in the description to my social media and everything else like that. And that's it for this video. Until the next one, take it easy, stay creative, keep smiling, sound. Self-checkout.